Welcome back to Truce Talks. This is Diann, and I'm talking today with Jennifer Burwell. Jennifer is the Vice President and Director of Programs at Maxx. Maxx is a very creative co-working, co-manufacturing company here in Tempe, Arizona. Jen wears a lot of different hats, not only professionally but personally. She has 3 children she's managing through this pandemic episode. She is the Tempe Chamber of Commerce Businesswoman of the Year. She does all the major programming and leadership programs at Maxx, and I find her a very interesting woman. I hope you enjoy our conversation today. Hey, Jennifer, it's good to see you.
Hi, Diann.
And I wanted to talk to you a bit about, there's a lot of changes going on at Maxx right now, and you're a major influencer at Maxx. You're a major influencer at the Tempe Chamber of Commerce. You're very much involved with the women in business. Can you talk a little bit about some of these things, starting with Maxx?
Sure. Thanks, Dan. So, yeah, there's a lot happening around Maxx. I think there's a lot happening everywhere. Everything that's going on. I don't know. I don't know a business owner that hasn't been affected on some level. So all of this kind of caught us by surprise. I don't think anyone saw this coming. And as primarily Maxx, we do 2 things. We have our spaces. So we have co-working, we have a co-manufacturing facility that Truce resides in, and then we have enterprise suites. And so we have physical space. And so as people are not in offices right now, or a lot of people are working from home, we've tried to think about, like, what does that look like? How can we still support our community? But we've also realized there is that small business segment that, like the manufacturing facility, there's a lot of those companies who they need a place to make product. You can't make it in your house. Try to figure out, okay, how can we make it as safe as possible for people to be in space? And so we have, I think the community has stayed the same, so that's been consistent. All of the 120 businesses under our roofs, we still remain connected to them and are providing resources the best that we can. We just don't see everybody in the office every day, so a lot of people have gone virtual. But it's been a wild ride.
Yeah, it has. And I understand, I was talking to Chrissy briefly the other day. We're going to be talking to Chrissy in a couple of days about the fact that you're doing, like you can sort of lease a desk for X number of hours a week for people who are sort of tired of being at home.
Yeah.
And you've been very flexible with your business model. It's really impressive.
Yeah, that's one of the things that we have seen. So there are people like myself. I have 3 kids under 5.
Wow.
And working from home, like when you need some quiet, can get challenging. And so there are people who are like, I just need a place where I can go that I know is taking safety precautions, and I can just get some work done, because it's amazing the amount of work you can get done in like a block of 4 hours versus 8 hours with trying to manage, children and homeschooling and all of those things. So yeah, we are definitely seeing that. We're also seeing some of the larger companies who are not going back to their offices, but they have individuals inside their companies who are like, I really just need a space to be in. And so that's been interesting. So we're having people who are leasing desks for a couple hours a day or a couple times a week, which has been an interesting shift. And it'll be interesting to see in the real estate world what happens, because there's a lot of companies are realizing, the space, our teams are doing really well virtually. So reports that I've been reading is co-working is going to be even busier than it has been, because it offers that flexibility for people to come in, or say a company can lease 4 desks, but they have 20 employees and you just kind of manage who's at those desks at what time. It's wild.
Yeah, I think a lot of that stuff is really going to change. We've been remote pretty much from the start, pretty much from mid-March. And as a consequence, we have eliminated all of our office space, and it is now huge open warehouse, which we need because we're growing. So I'm watching other businesses kind of change and shift around. It's like, okay, things are different. What do we do? Yeah,
right.
yeah. So how are you doing with the kids at home? How's that working out?
Yeah.
Ah.
Yeah. So work is a subjective word. So I have 3 kids. My oldest will be 6 in September, and to add to the complication, he also has autism. So that just adds crazy for us as parents, but also he really thrives in routine and
Oh,
needs to know what's coming next and daily
yeah.
interactions. So that's been hard. And the timing of it is just, everyone has their story. But my son was finishing up his kindergarten year, a full-time aide in the classroom. And we had decided in February to fade the aide back. It was going to be February through May. So we could really see what he could do on his own in preparation for first grade. Well, we did our aide. Pandemic hit. He came home out, like they didn't go back to school after spring break.
Wow.
And now he's going into first grade with a brand new teacher to the classroom because the previous teacher had left. So this is the teacher's first year, no aid or support, and hasn't been in school since March. And so the sleepless nights there's been a lot of them.
Yeah.
And so with the pandemic, we couldn't get his aide back because they went to a lot of virtual things. So we're trying to figure all that out. So that's been time consuming and stressful. He's been doing really well. But I can just see when you've worked so hard on like behavior issues or even reading and writing, and now we're sliding backwards and it's just heartbreaking. So
I have another friend who's dealing with the exact same situation, and that's the heartbreak of that, is that once you get that routine established and then it comes tumbling down, it throws everybody off, but primarily your son.
Yeah, it's been hard. And then his occupational therapist, we were seeing her virtual, and then we transitioned to in-person. And right after that in-person session, she called me on Father's Day to say that she had tested positive for COVID. And so we had to quarantine. And then we had the added stress of, well, he had been exposed to her. So what does that mean? But everyone stayed healthy.
Good.
That was a good thing. But it was really scary. And so it was like and it feels like this is what other people are experiencing as well, is like when you're on the more cautious side and you're staying inside and you haven't really had very much interaction. And when you stick your toe out and then something like that happens, it makes you like want to retreat and never come out again. So it's hard to balance, like, how do you go on with life while staying safe? And so that's been hard. And then I have a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old. And
your house is full and your hands are full.
Yeah, and it's been interesting. Everybody's been really gracious, and that's been nice. Being on meetings and presentations, and when I saw there's a video of like a news anchor where their kid like popped in on screen, and it's happening more and more. And so everyone at Maxx has been wonderful, and Scott and Kyle have said do what you need to do, but it's tough.
Yes, it is. This is a very challenging time on so many different levels, because you don't know what you're coming out to at the end of this. Nobody does.
Right.
There's a lot of guesses, but who knows? I know.
And I've set myself up so many times. I'm like, okay, once we end with the stay-at-home order, things are going to be better. And then things got a lot worse. I'm like, okay, we're going to have this figured out by the new school year. And now here we are with not a lot figured out and big decisions to make. And now I'm like, all right, well, by the end of the year. And it's like, I need to stop putting these deadlines because I'm just disappointed. And adjusting to the new normal seems to be more what we need to do.
And I think it's really hard to accept that this is the new normal. For right now, this is normal. All the struggling, all the confusion, all the emotions.
Yeah.
It's this is the new normal that we're having to cope with, and it's really, really challenging. And my hat's off to you. You're still working with the chamber and the women in business? Because I got your email this morning saying, hey, we're having this meeting.
Yeah. So
I hope it's going to be virtual.
Yes, virtual. Yes. all chamber meetings are virtual through 2020, and they're looking at 2021. But yeah, so I'm the chair for Women in Business Council this year, and we have our first meeting next week at 8 a.m. So I'm really excited. I'm a little nervous too. We had a great chair last year, and so filling her shoes is going to be challenging, but and navigating all the different changes. So as a result, typically we have our leadership conference in May, and that we canceled it and we postponed it to September, thinking again September would be better. Well, here we are. So we're going to do a virtual conference, but now this year we have 2 conferences for women in business to plan and organize. So a lot of really great content's coming out of it. We've taken some shift. We were doing a Trailblazer panel about women in industries who are typically men-led, who have been really successful. And so that's been really exciting. And we're adding some additional conversation around diversity and inclusion, given the moment that we're in, which I'm really glad to see. And the chamber is really welcoming that conversation. And so I think it's going to be a great conference virtually. But I think it'll be
virtually.
Well,
it's interesting. Our Stephen just went to what would be normally you go there trade show in Chicago, and you drag all your stuff with you, and you set stuff up, and you do all that.
Yeah.
It all went virtual. It went so much smoother. More got done. The interactions were much better because it was virtual, and click, 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 it rolled through. So I think that whole world is going to be changing, that maybe you may find your convention is better this way than it was with everybody kind of being together. I don't know. It depends on how you set it up. But trade shows are morphing.
That's good.
Yeah, it is.
Because it is a pain.
It is. And it's really hard with planes, trains, and automobiles to get anywhere. We've got this big train wreck in Tempe this morning. All the roads around are shut off. It's like, oh, I'm so glad I'm not going anywhere.
I know. And it's interesting, I found that I can get appointments or meetings with people that were typically much harder, because a virtual meeting, you can, you jump on Zoom and you can connect. So that part of it's been really cool. And I hope that a lot of it stays when we get figured out, because it's really helpful.
I think it will. I actually think it will. I mean, considering what you do with Maxx, you do a lot of presentations, a lot of educational things. I think that will translate very, very easily onto a virtual platform for you. And I think you'll be really good at it.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I think it will translate really well. And Scott was showing me yesterday, there's coming out with technology that I think has been in the works, but there's these virtual rooms that you see. And then, there's tables. And so if you're presenting, you can present, but then at the networking portion, everyone can see the different rooms with tables and who's in each room, and you can pick where you want to go. And then you're in a Zoom conversation with whoever you want. So they're getting really good to where, instead of, if you're at an in-person networking event, you don't have a lot of information, you don't know who you're talking to, but this gives you a summary of everyone. So you can pick people that you have a connection with and you can add value to each other. And so I love that much more than in-person networking.
So does that apply to things like if you were going to a convention downtown and you had all these different speakers in different rooms, you now can do it virtually and you can still tell who's where and everything?
Yeah, I mean, I think it would. It's a technology platform that we're testing for Maxx. And yeah, what I saw yesterday was a bigger event. It was a 200-person event.
Wow.
But it was a floor plan you see all the rooms and the tables, and then you have little summaries of everybody. And then there's a video screen of the presenter, and then because with regular Zoom or other platforms, I've seen the whoever's the host has to put people in different places. This was the participants can choose wherever and whoever they want to go and see. So that, I think that's exciting.
I think that's very exciting. And it's funny, one of the things we were talking about in our group huddle this morning is, if you could be any president, who would you want to be? We have these weird questions. And
awesome.
Matthew said Barack Obama, simply because he's aware of technology and it's changing so fast. We need somebody who's technologically savvy, sort of beyond Twitter, because business is changing. which means Wall
Right.
Street is changing, which means firms are changing, Fortune 500 companies. And you look and you think, oh my goodness, look at what's happening in my world.
I
Yeah.
know. It's insane. I was looking at our Leadership Academy stuff, and I always do a refresh every year, but the pace that I'm having to refresh is every 6 months because there's new information coming out and new studies are being published, and it's almost dizzying the amount of like change. We were talking about this in our team meeting actually yesterday too, about the pace of change and how fast it is and how you manage it.
Yeah.
And how it's just not possible to know everything. But yeah, a president that was technologically savvy would be helpful.
Yeah, it would. It would. I think having those millennials around, you're almost a millennial, who are tech open, tech willing to go through those sequential learning curves. I find myself, like, oh my God, not another learning curve. I don't think I can do it, So having people around, like you've got Mike and Resound Creative there, you have a lot of tech people there, which is really the secret.
Yeah, it is really nice. There is always the things where I have the same thing where I'm like, oh gosh, I don't know if I can figure this out. And I call Resound, Mike or Sam, say, hey, can you help me with this? And then when no one else in our office can figure it out, then we ask Chrissy's son, who is 17. And so he knows. And so,
yeah,
Tarek. So he can, and Tarek works for Refresh at the warehouse now. He's in.
I know. Ray got him first. I would have loved to have had, it's not over yet. He's not done. But yeah, what a nice young man he is.
Yeah, so when all else fails, we just ask him and he helps us.
That's good to know because he's in my backyard when I'm down at the warehouse. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, there's a lot of changes going on at the warehouse, and then a lot of things are staying the same. And the challenges with that, it's like, our business model has shifted completely as you're seeing your shift. And so going forward, you're still going to have the Leadership Academy and all that sort of thing going on. That's great.
Yeah. And we're having a lot of conversations about how do we reach our community members more virtually, because, we were doing a lot of short-term planning, like, oh, well, in the summer, this is going to be, we can transition back. And we're realizing, no, that's not the case. So we're rolling out a longer plan, 6, 8, 9, 12. And then, like you said, maybe for always, we will always have this option of virtual. And so we're putting together a lot of resources that I'm really excited about. And one idea that I have, that I haven't really talked to anyone about yet, but I think this is really going to be like the next thing. And maybe I'm just crazy, but I was talking with a client this week, and she was saying, all the education resources, these are really good and they're going to help us communicate better. But everybody is tired and we're stressed and we're feeling isolated and alone. And so they're like, do you have anything that's fun? Or that is like team building and trust related, which that is really where a lot of teams should be spending their time, is really building trust right now. It's so important anytime, but this is the time. So here's my idea. I have a million. I have a million. Okay. Well, you'll have to see if it's a good one first. I have a million trust activities and different things that you can do in person, but how does that translate to virtual? And what I thought about, wouldn't it be fun if you, if you think one of the activities we do is a escape the room in one of our 8-week course. Well, what if we broke the escape the room into a virtual scenario and we delivered pieces, so a physical package, to each team member's house? And then there's the excitement of like, this mysterious box showed up at my house. What do I do with this? And then you put people together. They have to use what they have virtually to figure out to solve the riddle. So I don't know if that's the answer, but something where there's that tangible in-person surprise gift element in combination with the virtual, like, let's get together as a team and solve this riddle, I think could be a really good team building, morale boosting exercise.
Because you'll be sharing it, right? You'll be sharing it with one another on the team. Yeah, that's interesting. A mystery house, is that what you said?
It's just like an escape the room. You know, like they have
Escape
them
the
where you can,
room. No, I
yeah.
don't know about that.
Oh, they're so fun. So there's a bunch of them in Tempe. There's one on Mill Avenue, I think, still. But it's like a riddle. So the team goes in, and there's different themes. There's like a zombie theme, or there's like a shipwreck theme, whatever theme you want. And they
Oh,
say you have to solve the puzzles together to get out of the room in a certain amount of time.
okay, yeah.
So that's what we do in one of our team building, and it doesn't have to be that um, complex. I think
Hmm.
just if team members got a special care package with something that was mysterious that they then had to go to their Zoom call and all work together to figure out, that's communication right there. Looking at how people communicate with each other, it's problem solving skills, it's there's a little bit of stress and pressure, so it's team building, trust building, there's all the elements with a physical component. So it's a work in progress. Not sure that that's the right thing, but I really think that there's
I,
something.
I think you're on the right path, and I think it's an interesting challenge because everybody
Yeah.
seems to be interested in puzzles, all kinds of
Mm-hmm.
puzzles. We're very, very popular now. And you have a puzzle, like a jigsaw puzzle in a way, that everybody's going to have to work on virtually. I think it's very
Right.
exciting.
Yeah. So we'll see. The other thing that was just really interesting is on one of my other teams, we were going through a EOS entrepreneurial operating system planning session, and virtually 8-hour days are long days to be staring at your computer. So we broke it up at lunch, and I wasn't planning on doing this, but I felt like we needed some energy and some pick me up and some connection. So I just said, let's pretend that we're back in kindergarten and let's play show and tell. So I want each of you to go run and grab something from your house that means a lot to you and just share it. And the incredible things that came out of it, we had somebody
That's
shared
brilliant.
that they just met their brother for the first time, and they shared a picture, and there were tears, and someone bought a cabin, and everyone was excited for them. And it was quick 15 minutes of connection, but the second half of that session was so much more engaged. And I think a little bit had to do with just them sharing and remembering, hey, we don't get a lot of time to connect as a team. And so that's a simple thing that I think I'm going to bring forward.
I really like that. I like both those ideas, but I love the show and tell.
Yeah.
I'm going to use that. I'm going to say, and I may give you credit and I may not, but I think I
No,
will.
totally. No credit is needed. I just want to know how it goes because,
Yeah.
yeah. And I think it was nice. You could give some people a heads up, but it was nice that it was kind of like spur of the moment, just whatever the first thing is that you want to share.
And you get a little insight into your other team members. How many on this team? How many were in this group?
There were seven. Seven.
That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, you get a whole lot more insight to them on a heart level, which I think
Mm-hmm.
is really a great idea. Because those are the things we need right now. We need
Yeah.
to reach out to one another, and doing that is great.
Yeah.
That's really good. And Peyton gave us a deck of cards. You might ask him about this. He's
Hmm.
another one of our Maxx 6 community. A deck of cards that Holsty puts out. You may already have it because you guys have a lot of Holsty stuff. We've used
Yeah.
those too. We do those virtually because we're so connected and disconnected.
Right. You guys do a great job of keeping connected though. Like your question of what president would you want to be in, and your
Yeah,
culture is so. I admire your culture a lot. It's
it's it's it's working. What can I say? It's working,
yeah.
and it's surprising and wonderful, just like Maxx 6. The people that you add, the changes you go through, you're adding a new platform now at Maxx 6, and that quite frankly I'm struggling with a bit because I just don't seem to have the time to deal with it, and I know I have to. I've been through
I was
this.
I was wondering if it was one of those technology things that you're like, oh, I don't want to figure out.
Yeah, really.
'Cause it's,
While I'm dealing with renewing workman's comp and all this stuff, it's like I really don't want to build another platform,
I
but I will.
know.
I will, because it works so well. the communication at Maxx is really quite extraordinary. And I really do appreciate that. We've talked to a number of our community members on Truce Talks, and everybody's story is so interesting. And I've always thought you not only have Maxx and the Tempe and 3 kids, you also have another business. You have Doughnuttery. What's going on with Doughnuttery? Yeah, the donut.
Yeah, that old business. So there's a lot of like, what's the right word? I don't want to use contradictions, but like questions, because primarily, so backing it up, I'll get to Doughnuttery for sure, but backing it up, like my whole life, well, not my whole life, since my son was born, which feels like my whole life, my oldest, I've been in this very natural, toxin-free, organic life that I still live. And that's one of the things I love Truce. And I've shared with you before, but my son had eczema and I couldn't figure it out. And I did a lot of research. And then once you start doing research and your eyes are open, you realize we are surrounded by toxins everywhere.
God, yeah.
And so that is why Truce is the only products that I use, and I love them, and I tell everybody I can about them, and I give them to the teachers at the school for a new school gift in the beginning of the year.
Wow.
Because it's pretty selfish, because I'm like, I want my kids to be surrounded by good cleaning products and not.
And that is what we're finding, is that particularly young mothers, it's like, wait a minute, I just have this brand new life going on here, and we have a lot of chemicals. And I'm delighted at how I feel the market's catching up to us, because at first it was like, no, I just want to get it clean. My mother used Lysol, I'm going to use Lysol. That's passing. People are going, wait a minute,
Right.
And that's very gratifying. And I can't tell you how much I appreciate your support. That's great.
Oh, well, I can't tell you how much I appreciate your products, because it's amazing. And all of them, they do the job. Like there's nothing that I clean with any other products in my house. It's not perfect, but it is clean enough and safe. And I love them all. And so that's also, it's a great baby shower gift as well, that I give to my friends.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
That's very wonderful.
So that's the side of me. And then I love business. I've been an entrepreneur since I was like 9. I started making these little corn husk dolls and selling them. And then I did a big charity event with them and raised money for the children's hospital when I was little. I'd have lemonade stands. When I was in high school, I wanted to make like window treatments, because I knew how to sew. And so I made like cornice boxes. They're not a thing anymore, but they were like wood things.
Yeah.
I remember those. And you upholster them. Well, I made them, and I went door to door selling them with my stepfather, who was my installer. But I was I don't know, 16, 17 years old, and I sold to my neighbors, which looking back was kind of impressive, because I'm not sure I would buy from a 16-year-old kid some window curtains. But anyway, so I've always had that in me. And my father-in-law he has an entrepreneurial spirit, and he's been looking at franchises ever since I've known him and my husband, which is like 12 years. And he just never quite pulls the trigger, because he's also very risk averse. Mm-hmm. And last summer, he came to my husband and I and said, I've got some news. I bought a franchise. I said, you did what? He said, I bought a franchise. My husband's family's from New York. They go there every year, and well, they used to until this year. But there's this company called the Doughnuttery that my husband's mom and sister just absolutely love. And they're mini donuts, uniquely sugared. And the founders are 2 brothers, and they had jobs on Wall Street. And then 2008 hit, and they got hit really hard, and they decided, what are we going to do next? And they decided to go into the donut making business. The one founder had 2 small kids. And so he took the risk and built this business. And my father-in-law had been watching them for a little while, and he really liked the team, liked the family, and decided to purchase a franchise. And we're their first franchise. And I think the other piece is my father-in-law misses New York a lot, misses his family. All the rest of their families out there. And so it's like a taste of home. And so he said, are you interested, and are you interested in helping? And of course I said yes, because I just love business and I wanted to help him and I wanted this to be successful. So November of last year, we opened on Thanksgiving Day in Chandler Fashion Center Mall. And it has been a whirlwind. You know, I went into it thinking, how hard can selling donuts be? And it turns out everything is more complicated than you think. And so it's been crazy. But, and then when the pandemic hit, we'd only been open for 4 months.
Oh,
and everything was shut down, and the mall is not the place it's going to be right now, or then. And so we got thrown into, what are we going to do, and the whole PPP and managing that, and lease negotiations with our landlord. And we have 7 employees, so managing our staff and what we're going to do with that. And so we shut down all of April just to take a break and figure out what we want to do. And now we're only open on the weekends, and we're really pushing curbside delivery and pickup. But one of the fun things that's really been important for me and my father-in-law is we both have, I don't know how to describe it, but we really want to build something more than just donuts. We want it to be a force for good. And, you know, we talk about conscious capitalism with Maxx and how can we make an impact? Because there could be a very legitimate argument that the world does not need any more donuts or sugar in this world, which that would have been my argument prior to having this business. And one of the things that I like on that level is they're mini, they're small. So they're bite size, are not these giant, huge things. So we can control the portions, but that's rationalizing a bit. But the thing that I like about it is it gives us a vehicle to really help and connect with local charities and provide fundraising opportunities for them. So that's been really fun. We worked with TCH, Tempe Center for Rehabilitations, to do a fundraiser for them. And so we do a day, it's kind of like a dine-in night, or if you've seen before, you get a percentage of sales for a certain day. So we do Saturday mornings, and we do a pickup, so outside, socially distanced. So you pre-order, so we don't have to interact very much, and then you just pick up your donuts, but you're supporting charities. And so that's what I've been focusing on, is really how can we take this time and give back to the community. It's a win-win. It's supporting our small business, it's keeping our employees employed, and it's supporting some local charities that I care about. So if you know any charities that we should be talking to, let me know.
There's a really great dog pet shelter, lostourhome.com. Do you know them? They're right over here on Hardy. They're one of our neighbors. We've worked with them for a long time with our pet shampoo, and they are definitely, you know, there's a funny thing that's going to happen. Dogs are being adopted like crazy. It's very hard to adopt a dog right now, but they know what's going to happen as soon as the pandemic ends and the kids have gone back to school and everything settles down. Those dogs will be back. And that's what happens. Look at the rabbits after Easter. Look at the puppies after Christmas, and all this stuff happens. So they're a little freaked out right now, and I know they need food and things like that. So yeah, that's one of our favorites, is Lost Our Home Pet Foundation.
Okay, I will check them out.
Yeah, check them out. Do you have a dog?
I do have 2. We have 2 rescues.
Yep.
They're
Yeah, we got 3. You know, that's what you do. That's what you do. And I've thought about fostering. I thought, well, you know, I know that some of these dogs just need a place to be, but I've got 3 dogs. I can't take any more dogs.
I know. I've thought about that too, but our dogs are a little finicky with other dogs, and I don't know, like, I don't want to, you know, they would never hurt the dog, but they might cause some extra stress. And like, I don't know, that's a great fostering situation.
Yeah. So going forward into the unknown, the donut business is still there. You're still happening. Maxx 6 is going forward. It's still there. The chamber is going forward. What's sort of a long-term goal of yours? Where do you want to be, say, in 10 years? Where do you want to be? Where do you see yourself being?
Such a tough question.
Mm-hmm.
I've always focused on impact, on what impact do I want to make. And when I was younger, I had this grand vision that I was going to help eliminate extreme poverty, and I had all the answers, and everybody just was doing it wrong, and I could figure it out, and that was going to be my life goal. And as I've lived some more years and realized it's a complicated, complex issue that is going to take a lot more than just me, and we need a big group. So I've kind of narrowed my focus a bit to every day I just wake up and want to be 1% better, however that looks that day. And I want to inspire others to do the same. And so with my work that I do, I'm hoping that I increase my impact and that I am, have the opportunity to be in front of more people to help them understand who they are and how they do their best work. But on a real micro personal level, I hope that in 10 years from now, I've inspired a lot of people to just keep searching and to keep thinking and to keep learning. Because I think that's how the world becomes better. And I always challenge myself every week. What am I learning? What am I reading? I don't do a lot of watching, but sometimes what am I watching? And where are, I look for blind spots. So did I get feedback that really I was taken aback or hurt my feelings? Or did I feel, when you're on social media and you see all these reactions, it can be, especially right now, it can be stressful and upsetting. So I really think about why am I reacting that way? And what does that say about me? And can I dig deeper? And, I think everyone could do really a lot of good by sharpening our critical thinking skills and not reading something at face value and really searching and understanding the history. And so this is a long-winded answer to your question, but as a result of George Floyd's death and the protests that have happened, I really stopped and thought, what is my part in all of this? What role do I play? Because to be honest, I had never really thought deeply about race before. And I'm learning that is quite the privilege to not have to think about race or worry about race. And so that's been my project for this year. And I don't know if project's the right word, but it's my own education so I can be a better advocate and ally. So I'm reading a lot. I'm researching a lot. I've taken some cultural fluency courses. I'm in a cultural fluency book club every week where we talk about the books we're reading, but just about issues. And I'm realizing my learning path right now is how there's so many systems that are so intertwined, and they've all been created, and a lot of times they exclude large portions of our population unfairly, and it's been eye-opening and challenging work and soul-searching work, because there's so much of me that wants to say, oh yeah, I'm better because I'm doing this work, and look at those people over there. And the real work is to say, no, I have my own stuff I need to work on, and my own things I need to learn, and my own things I need to do to grow. And anyways, so that's kind of what I'm working on. I don't know exactly where that all leads, but it's what I have in my head.
It's very interesting. And I'd like to suggest that maybe sometime when this is all past, I would love to sit down and talk to you over lunch, over a beer, over whatever we decide. You're a very, very interesting person, Jen. And it's been a real pleasure talking to you. I'm delighted to have finally made your deep acquaintance, which I've never had a chance to do before. We were always just sort of passing in hallways and things, and we know each other, but particularly your last response has been very, very rewarding to me as well. It was nice to hear the direction you're moving in. I have one final easy question for you. If you could have dinner with anyone in the world, living or dead, who'd you like to have dinner with?
You think that's easy? Oh, there's so many.
Just one. Don't just one. And it doesn't
Ah,
just right now at this point in your life, who would you like to have dinner with?
well, I mean, Nelson Mandela is always in my top.
There you
I just
go.
think he's
That
an
works.
amazing leader. Yeah.
That works because it can be living or dead. I was using fictional for a while, but then that got sort of silly. But Nelson Mandela, that's a good one. That's a good one. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your insights. Thank you for being a part of a very dynamic organization. And I look forward to learning more about you, getting to know you more. Thank you.
Oh, thanks, Diann. I really appreciate you having me on, and I admire you as well. And I would love to go to lunch or
Yeah,
drinks or whatever.
it's time. It's time.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.